Today we will create the TaskEditView that you can see here on the right side on the simulator. So we will give ourselves the option to actually create new habits, and what we type in here will be the topic. Then we can decide if it's a positive or negative habit. This will influence the kind of how it is displayed. For example, a negative habit will be displayed in red, a positive habit will be displayed in green. And when we are here on our overview of habits that we want to actually fulfill daily, then if we reach the ideal, positive habits should turn green while negative habits should turn red. Okay, then we can decide between an amount. So how is the habit measured in minutes, hours, or quantity? Why does it make sense? Well, some things, for example, like work. If you want to work like 6 hours a day, then it's more appropriate to measure it in hours than in minutes. But if you want to meditate for 50 minutes a day, then minutes become more useful than hours. And for quantity, for example, if you have goals like making a certain number of squats or whatever, then quantity should be your preferred measurement. Okay, so here we can select the daily amount, so we can actually click on here and then change the daily amount, and then you can see the current selection, and depending on what you select, this also changes. Then we can submit a habit, and then it will be stored to CoreData as an item, and then we can delete habits and their progress. So this is something else than what we did here. Here we are only deleting the progress, and here we're deleting everything. So the item that has main as true, so it's actually a habit and it's just an item we fill in here to track the progress. But the category will be deleted and every item with the same topic as this habit. I always say topic because that's what we fill in here. These were the attributes that we defined in our CoreData model that you can see here. So whenever I, for example, set topic, progress, ideal, main, positive, and so on, I was always talking about these attributes that we define first, and I'm always using these names so you understand what is happening in the background with the CoreData model. And here you can see that we only have one entity that is called item. So now we will program all of this logic. And after this tutorial, we will be finished with this file and then can proceed. Okay, so let's get started. First we will structure a little bit. Okay, then we will define so we are defining a variable called topic, and this is a string, and the default value which it has at the beginning is an empty string. Okay, and then we want to fetch data, and how do we do that? Well, we discussed this a few times. We just go to the content view. Here we have the fetch data. Then we copy this, go to the file where we need to fetch data, because here we are engaging with the CoreData model, and then we're simply pasting it in. Okay, so nothing more to do. Then we go for add state private var, and we will call this PON, and string equals positive as default. Okay, let PON types equal, so PON, I simply made this up for positive or negative, and the types will be weird brackets, so you have to press option and 5, positive and negative, add state private var, amount style, type of string will be minutes by default. Let amount style types equal, then the weird brackets again, option 5 and 6, minutes, hours. Be careful with these, they can mess up your formats. This is what I mean. Quantity. Okay, so what did we do? Well, whenever we actually just click on here, then the default values will be positive, and minutes, that is something you can see here. You could change it to whatever you like, but the default value is what the program will be starting with. So the selection that we will define later on. So this selection is defined here, but I mean, like, we will define later on element types, but we will define later on element types where we use these, and so we also use these default options. Okay, then we go add state private var Zahl. So this is just like number in German. Swan. As I said, I use sometimes different languages. Okay, and here we go for another variable. This will be called on at some point. Then we go for functions. So here we go for private var is button disabled, and this will be type of bool, so boolean variable. Then we go here for our topic is empty. Okay. Then we go for private func add item. With animation. Open brackets. Let new item equal item context view context, and then new item timestamp will equal date. New item dot topic will equal topic. New item dot main will equal true. So every item we are actually saving here is a new habit. That's why main will be true always. New item dot amount is equal to amount style. So as you can see here, the different amount styles, and then we will simply use the one that is picked. As you can see here, to save it to the new habit, this is basically a function how to save new habits. Okay, then we go for new item positive, then we use the PON, so here positive or negative. Okay, then we go for new item dot ID equals UUID. Then we go for new item dot progress equals 0, and new item dot ideal equals int 16, and here we put in this one, the number which we called Zahl. Okay, and then we will save the item, and topic will be empty. Okay, then we will create another func. So, but first you should copy this code. So, happy coding. So then we go for this function and we go for with animation, delete what's inside, delete this one as well, go for open brackets, enter, then let thema equal offsets dot map, then go for open brackets and enter. Then we go for items, use the weird brackets and the selector of a $sign with 0. Then we go for dot topic, exclamation mark, behind the brackets, dot joined, open brackets, close brackets, 4. And then we go for index item in items dot enumerated. Then we open brackets, close brackets, and then we go for if items, weird brackets, index dot topic is identical to thema. Then we go for offsets dot map, open brackets, close brackets, go for this, in item dot for each view context dot delete, and then we go just a moment here for save items. So now you should already see a pattern, kind of, because when we were in the settings view, remember this function, then we go to the settings view and go to delete progress, this function. Then we can see the only real difference is basically that we are selecting only items that have a main of false. So we can only delete the items that are saved to CoreData to save progress on a specific date. And now we are not selecting with this if condition, and therefore we're deleting every item as well as the item that is basically there for that you can store a new habit. Okay, so save items, we also use this in the settings view, and here you can see we use it for this function add item and for the function delete items. And then we also have to define this function. So we go for private func, save items, and go for do. So this should be identical to the other file. Try view context dot save. Go here for catch. Then we go for let ns error equal error as ns error fatal error. We go for unresolved error. Then we go for option shift and 7 to put in this inverted slash, and then we go for ns error comma again shift option 7 and then ns error dot user info. Okay, this should be fine. Good. Then we go for a little bit more structuring. And this is the body. Okay, then we will delete what's in the view. And instead, we will implement a VStack. Okay, and then we go here for add a new item. Whatever. Okay, and we put in another VStack. So actually the VStack should fill out the whole screen. I usually prefer VStacks because they go from top to bottom. And in this VStack, which should fill out the whole screen, then we put in from top to bottom every element. Okay, so we will start with the text. And this text will be type in a new habit to track below. Okay, so you can see here, this will be this. Okay, then we go for font white. This will be heavy. Then we go for frame. Min width will be 0 and max width will be infinity. So it scales well on larger screens. Therefore the max width. Okay, then we go for padding. Then we go for foreground color, and here's dot white. Then we go for background. Okay. And as you can see here, we have a background that's basically a rounded rectangle, and in it we have something like a color gradient. So we go for this. So rounded rectangle. Then we go here for corner radius 14. Dot fill. Here we put in the linear gradient. Go for gradient. Dot init. And we go for colors. And then we put in these weird brackets. And we start with the color of dark blue. So when you remember, like one of the first videos you could have seen as part of this course, then you know that we defined a color that we called dark blue, and it's important that the spelling is correct therefore. Okay, and this dark blue has the opacity of 0.6. Then we go for comma, then we go for color, then we go for blue, dot opacity, then we go for 0.8, and then we have 3 brackets, comma, start point, and we go for bottom leading, comma, endpoint, dot top trailing. Okay, so this should work fine. We actually find that the color dark blue will begin at the bottom leading, so leading is left, bottom is down, so here will the color dark blue start with the opacity of 0.6, and then the color blue, there's where the color gradient will end, is top and trailing. So leading would be left, trailing is right. So top right, this is where this color blue will end for this rounded rectangle. And I actually liked the style of color gradients because you should look out for when you're actually coloring an application, that for example when it's a dark application, that you don't make these colors too bright. So it's good when they are dark as well, kind of. So you see similar kind of styling. And here we have like many dark elements, and only the elements where the user can actually do a specific action, we have like a brighter color. Okay, one thing that I wanted to add, like before, when we define this, the number which we call Zahl, then this is this. So what we can click on here. Okay. Then we'll simply continue with this VStack. So now we defined this one here, this one. Now what is up here is basically here the selection where we can click on and type in a new topic for a new habit. Okay, so let's do this kind of selection. So instead of a text, we will therefore need a text field. And in the text field, what you could have already seen, there's displayed a text with instructions. So we go for these instructions so the user knows what he has to do. You could also leave this empty, but I like to put in something here. So we type in the new habit here, because the user doesn't know anything about our CoreData model. He only knows that he has to put in a habit, and this is totally enough for the user. Okay, so here selected thing that the user puts in will be the topic. So very important to note, because the topic then will be saved. As you can see here, the default value of topic will be directly empty. So I believe I did this. So you add an item, and then you want to add another item, and then the problem is that the user could actually add another item without typing anything in new, because the topic would be still saved as what the user typed in last time. So I simply said at the end of this function, topic equals empty string after the item was saved. So when the user now types in something else, then this will be the selected topic. So little simple trick, so the logic still works. Okay, and so far when I tested it, everything works fine. So even with little tricks, you can actually go for easy solutions. Okay, so maybe we'll have to fix something somewhere else. Anyway, so we went for padding, then we go for foreground color, dot white, and we go for background. We go for rounded rectangle, and then we go for corner radius 14. So this is kind of identical, but we want to have a more planar look actually. So we only go for color. Take the blue that we defined in assets as a custom color for ourselves and give it the opacity of 0.8. Okay, so we have the text in the text field, that's great. And then we give it actually a corner radius of 14. And then we want to add another element beneath the text field. And this will be a picker. So, but we should actually comment this maybe, so we know what we're doing. Picker, positive or negative. Okay, so here, picker, go for type, go for selection, is PON, go for open brackets, enter, for each, then we go for PON types, So PON types, as we remember, with these, positive or negative, so we can use all of them. And then go for each PON types, comma, ID, and then we simply select them with Option Shift 7 for the slash, dot self, open brackets, enter, text, and then we go for $0. Okay, cannot find selection because we missed a double point. Okay, then we go for dot picker style, and we go for segmented picker style. There are many picker styles, and often when you can pick between different kind of styles and so on, usually you should simply Google this kind of stuff, and then often you can see like pages for developers for Xcode, and then they show like all these kind of different options and show images, animations, how these objects look with their different styles and so on. So this is quite neat, and I recommend you to do that. Okay, so I recommend that you now copy all this code. Okay. Then we'll proceed. So first, pick a style as comment. Then we go for picker, type, go for selection, then we go for amount style, then we go for each amount style types, ID, dot self, and then we go for text. We want to put it in 0. So basically what we are doing here with these pickers, we are using what we define first, like these types always, and then we iterate over them and can automatically display them with these for each loops. Okay, so then we also need to go for picker style and go for segmented picker style again. I simply considered them to be most fitting. Maybe you come up with another solution for picker style. That's basically up to you. Okay, then we will make a VStack beneath, and then we go for a header and a text, and there we put in select the ideal daily amount, and then we go for foreground color dot white, open brackets here, and then we go for picker, amount, selection will be now the number which we called Zahl. Okay, so we can change that. And then we go for each 0 to 201. So if selection is not equal to 0, the text will be displayed. So this actually only means that the 0 won't be displayed, like inverted. So that is something we can see here. We can't see the 0, so you shouldn't be able to put in 0 as with the picker. And when you scroll down, and here you will only see 200 because we defined beneath 201. So a pretty easy solution that you can select something between 1 and 200. Okay, you could also make this number higher, whatever you like. I thought this should be more than enough and people should be good to go with this. This is why I differentiated between multiple solutions for the amount style. So people could decide between minutes and hours and quantity and not just minutes and quantity. Okay, menu picker style will be menu picker style. Labels hidden, okay. Dot padding, then dot background. Delete the inside, press enter. Then we go for circle. And the circle will be fill. And here will be color blue with the opacity of 0.1, and the frame will be width 48, height 48, alignment will be dot center, and then we go for an overlay. In between, go for enter. No, one too much. Okay. Okay, and in this overlay, we put in a circle and fill it with the color white. Then we go for opacity. Then we go for self.animating button. If this variable is true, then the opacity will be 1. If it's false, it will be 0. Then we go for scale effect. Self.animating button. If this variable is true, it will be 1. If not, it will be 0.1. Go for frame. And here we go for width, and this is 48. And height, and this will be 48. And alignment will be dot center. And then we go for animation. And the animation will be an ease out animation with a duration of 4 seconds. And then we go for repeat forever. And we say that the auto reverse is true. And the value will be animating button. So we go here, go for font, dot headline, then we go for on appear, and then we go for perform, open brackets, close brackets, and then we go for self animating button dot toggle. So basically, when we have to see here, what does it refer to the picker. Okay, so when this appears, on appear, perform toggling this variable from false to true, And then this animation will start with, and it's depending on the value of animating button, but it auto reverses true. So basically it's toggling on and off and on and off and on and off. And therefore this animation will never stop, where actually you can see a circle on top of a circle, because this circle we displayed on top on this circle. So I hope this makes sense. Okay, and now we will use all of this and shift left. So everything looks better now. Okay, so we are here. Then here we want to define an H stack. And in the H stack we go for another H stack. And then we go for text and go for current selection. Okay. And the font weight will be semi-bold. Then we go for text. And then we go here for the weird slash. Go for SAR. Font weight will be semi-bold again. Okay. Then we go, as you can see, now we're defining an H stack. So we're actually displaying the things we want to say here from left to right. So if I want to actually simply order elements for a whole screen from top to bottom, I go for V stack. But if I want to align elements from left to right in a specific section of a screen, then I go for an H stack. Okay, so here we go for text and then go for this and this, basically making an arrow. Go for font weight again, dot semi-bold, go for text, go for amount style, go for font weight and semi-bold again. That you should copy this code now. So happy coding. So before we actually continue to code, I want to correct myself in one particular case. And when I first programmed this application, then I started actually with, you remember, we had like this here, this CoreData model, and I picked a Boolean variable for positive as an attribute. And I then chose to use a string. So this is a correction of myself. Here you need to put in a string, then you go to persistent store. Then instead of using true, you go for positive. And then it should actually correct itself at some point, just a moment. Now it disappears. Okay. And then this makes sense, because otherwise it would be more problematic to actually use these, like these pon types, to automatically display on our application. You remember when we could choose between positive and negative, and we want to accomplish that, and therefore it is simply easier to just use a string for positive, and then we are good to go. So we can actually use simply here this pon, and the one that is selected can directly be transferred. This is a little workaround. Probably you could do something else, but it doesn't hurt if you use a string variable and a string attribute to accomplish your goal. Here in this situation, even though you have just two possibilities, you could go for these, or you could directly use these types for the selection, as you can see here, I believe, the pond types. Okay, then let's continue coding. Okay, we go for the second one, point, foreground color, and this is dot white. Then we click here. So here we style the H tag, as you can see. Then we click here, and now we are styling the V stack. And we go for frame, go for min width, and this will be 0. And then we go for max width infinity. Okay, then we go for padding. Usually I often use padding, so you have a little distance on the right and on the left side on the edges of your display. Usually it looks better, I believe. Then we go for background. And here I believe we can simply copy the styling we used here. Yeah, let's just copy this. Okay. Because it's descriptive. Otherwise we would use a more plain color that is not so dark but brighter, like the blue and no color gradient that we use with the dark blue. Okay, so then beneath we will create a button, action, open brackets. So after this there comes the styling, but here as action we actually use add item, the function, and then we go for feedback dot notification occurred dot success. So first, add item should directly make sense, because that is a function we actually defined here to add an item. So first we can fill everything in, then we can click on submit, habit, and then we can add an item, and this feedback is nothing else like from the constant file, you remember, and there we defined, hey, let feedback equal to UI notification feedback generator. And what does it do? It actually provides haptic feedback when you install this application on your iPhone or on your iPad, I believe. Then you will have haptic feedback, so you will notice if you actually click this button. We will only implement this haptic feedback for the most important buttons and leave it aside for the rest of them. Okay, so as I said, submit habit will be displayed as text. So the button beneath will have this functionality with this action, but what you can see is actually submit habit. Okay, then font weight will be heavy. Then we go for frame, min width 0, max width infinity. Then we go for padding, background, and now again we go for something that has some action type. So we look for the last styling we went for here, for something like this, and we will simply reuse it again. So put this into the background. Then we go for corner radius, make it 14, and then we go for foreground color and pick white. Okay, cool. So then we click here, dot disabled is button disabled. So what does this mean, is button disabled? Well, you shouldn't be able to actually add a habit without a topic. So if you didn't type in anything in the text field, which we defined first, you remember, here we made a text field, type in the new habit here, and what we type in would be then the topic of the new item. And when this is empty, then the button to submit a habit should be disabled. So because we wanted to have this, we actually said that is button disabled, boolean, topic is empty, then this is true. So when the topic is empty, the button will be disabled. So a little bit of forward thinking, so we can avoid a few mistakes for the usage of this application. Hope this makes sense. And we continue. So now we go for VStack and we say text. And now we implement the option to delete habits and their progress. And then we will style this text. Font weight will be .heavy. Then we go for frame. Min width 0. Max width .infinity. Okay, then we go for padding. Background. Now this will be descriptive again, so we simply go for the styling with the color gradient. So we use this, simply copy it, because we are lazy. Lazy is not a bad thing to do. I believe you could actually simply program this into the constant file and then reuse it all over again. Anyway, we continue. I mean, this, you should maybe make a little struct that only contains this and then call it. Okay, so foreground color will be, okay, simply .white. Okay, beneath the text, so beneath the text, we go for a list, open brackets, enter, for each items. So which items will be displayed, we will decide now. Okay, item in, if item main is identical to true, so only the items will appear which we defined as new habits and that we implemented on the TaskEditView screen, and no other items will be displayed. Okay, so if other items would be displayed, you would probably see for every item that you edited, you will probably see for every item that you added, when you edit progress, another item with the same topic, and we want to avoid that. So we only want to have one item for each topic that we declared, so only every habit once displayed. So we go for hstack, open brackets, then we go for text, item dot topic, double question mark, empty string. Okay, and now we will pause here so that you can copy the code. So happy coding. Okay, let's continue. So, spacer, text, item dot amount. I will later explain what this is supposed to be, why these double question marks. Okay, then we will style this, font. Then we go for .system, open brackets, close brackets, footnote, and comma design dot rounded. Then we go for text. You have to press Option and 7 at the same time, then you can come up with this here. Okay, then font, we will simply use the same, so I just like copy this over. Then we go for text. Here we go for Shift, Option +7 to make an inverted slash, and go for item dot ideal. Then we go for font, and we simply copy this again because it has the exact same styling. Okay, so what is missing now? Well, we have no onDelete function yet integrated, but we want this integrated. So we will implement it. And how will we implement it? Well, we go for the third one. So we are here modifying the for each. And for each item, there will be the possibility to perform the delete items function. Okay, then we go, this is the list. This is the VStack. And this is another VStack, the bigger one. Okay, and then we are here. So I would recommend to you that you copy this code now, and then we will explain a few things. So happy coding. If Xcode tries to display, for example, this, and it's not possible, then it will simply display an empty string. That's all. This is why the two question marks are here for. There's a mistake I made, and it is in the TaskEditView. I forgot to set a point here. Here, it was like this, but it has to be like this. Okay. And then, if you ever change your CoreData model, like here, I recommend to you to load up the simulator, go to Home, and then delete the application so it can reload the CoreData model from new, especially if you change the type of a variable. Sometimes I believe I had issues, and after I did this, they vanished.